patience, and I'm really excited. We are a month out from our trip. Very, very soon coming up, so it's very important. For those of you who have done this thing before, you know about the pre-departure meeting. We go over all the details. I think it would behoove us to have maybe one more the week of, just to make sure we have everything lined out, no leftover questions, and we have smooth sailing. All right, so a little background information on Panama. You know, I think it's good to be a well-informed traveler, right? You want to know a little bit about the place you're going to go see. Yes, tourism in a way is consumption. You go to a beautiful place, you take it in, you come home with pictures, you come home with memories, but also you're interacting with other people. And it's important to be respectful and knowledgeable, right? So that we're not unintentionally offending people or things like that. So a little background information. See the population here, a little over 4 million.
What's up?
Not a very large country. Panama actually gained its independence because of U.S. intervention. It was originally part of Colombia when it was organized by the Spanish as a colony. It was under the New Granada, and then they broke off from Spain. And it wasn't until 1909 that Panama became independent. And the Panama Canal Zone, those of us who are before the 90s, we know that it actually used to be U.S. territory. It wasn't until the 90s that the U.S. gave that territory back to Panama. So U.S. and Panama have a very interesting history together. Panama City is a large metropolis. You can see almost 1 million people. If you include the suburbs, it's well over 1 million. Spanish, of course, official language. And it's the only place in the world where you can see the sun rise on the Pacific and set on the Atlantic. So that's really interesting. Welcome, welcome. Panamanians are very friendly, kind. Part of their culture in greeting each other is a hug, if you're familiar with the person. Like some other Latin-derived cultures, a kiss on the cheek between girls, and sometimes even girls and guys. If you're friendly or family is also common. Panama has a diversity that people may not know about. Yes, of course, the largest racial or ethnicity is mestizo, which is the combination of Native American and mostly Spanish or European blood, but also they have a still an indigenous population. We're going to get to see an indigenous village, and many people of African descent also call Panama home. Also, recently, in the last 100 years or so, a significant amount of Chinese and Japanese people have also come to call Panama home. So there is an Asian population there as well, especially in Panama City, which we'll probably see. Dress code, interestingly, bigger cities, a little bit more formal, a lot of business going on, so kind of business casual, whereas out in the countryside, a little bit more laid back. Interestingly, I didn't know this, not very common to wear shorts unless you're actually going to the beach. So just interesting thing to know. We'll kind of stand out if we're wearing shorts the whole time when we're not at the beach. And mealtime, as is traditional in many Latin American countries and even Mediterranean countries, dinner is much later than we're used to. Sometimes in the U.S. we have dinner as early as 5, sometimes 6. There it's more common 7 to 9 as a dinner. Not quite as late as the Spaniards, which may go till 11 o'clock when they're having their dinner, right? So that's interesting to note. The education system is pretty developed. It's considered, along with Costa Rica, the most developed Central American country. Between the two of them, they're the most developed. In addition to Spanish, which is the national language, there are also indigenous languages, and English is somewhat common. Also Arabic, French, because of people from other countries that have come to Panama and come to call it home. It is considered one of the financial capitals of the region. So there's a lot of skyscrapers in Panama City. You can imagine, of course, it's a very strategic location for world trade. It cuts off the need to circumnavigate all of South America with the Panama Canal. So even with larger vessels that can't quite get through the Panama Canal. And I do believe that they're doing an upgrading where they're widening and deepening the canal to accommodate bigger ocean vessels. It still is a principal location to connect Europe and Asia with markets in North America, Europe, South America. So it's a major route. You might have heard about the Panama Papers. It was kind of an expose, journalism, found some pretty interesting things. We're not going to get into all that, but what is relevant for us, definitely relevant, is the seasons. We're really lucky. We're going during the dry season, so that hopefully we're not using our umbrellas every single day. Although, of course, pop-up storms happen when you live in a humid, tropical climate that is close to the ocean. So certainly a possibility to experience some rain, but not where you have days upon days of rain during the wet season, which occurs from May to November especially. Definitely going to be a little bit of a temperature difference. In Houston, we can have vast changes between temperature. We're going to be experiencing, I've been looking at it, I've added it to my weather app already on my phone, highs in the 90s, lows in the mid 70s. So think a humid Houston summer, that's pretty much what it's going to be like. So we'll go from whatever the weather happens to be like in Houston that week, whether it's warm like this week or it's cold, to that. So expect that. The cool thing about this list that you're responsible for, I'm happy to report everyone here has paid off their entire trip, so give yourself an applause. No one has any further financial obligation to make sure you're doing this trip. Most of you have also completed the responsibility to do fundraising or make a donation to make sure our tips are covered. I'll talk to you individually if you haven't yet done that after the meeting. The good news is, although Panama does have its own currency, the balboa, the US dollar, it's paired exactly with the dollar. They don't print their own bills, they just use US Treasury notes, the regular dollar bills, 10, 20, 5s, 1s, all accepted there. The only thing you'll see different is when you get change, it's going to be the local currency. So you're going to end up with some change.
What's the exchange rate?
1 to 1. The
The
balboa is tied to the US dollar, so yes. Don't have to worry about doing any currency exchange for Panama. Costa Rica is another story. And thanks to the school district, we're going to have transportation to and from the airport. I'm going to share the flight information a little bit later, but I'm going to let you know it's going to be a really early start time. So bring that little pillow you can put around your neck, and hopefully you get some sleep in on the plane. Make sure you have some spending money, and I'm happy to take any questions. Anytime you have a question, just raise your hand. Also, if it's something that might be more individual, write it down. On the paper I'm giving you, the last page is intentionally blank, and I've given everyone a pen so they can write down those more individualized questions. Yes? I would recommend probably between $15 and $30 a day. The good news, this trip, unlike most trips, includes breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Normally lunch is not included. Our lunch is included. I don't know how picky of eaters you are. I know that there are dietary needs. We have entered in the system the dietary needs that have been reported for religious reasons or for any special dietary needs. So those have been reported in there. They should be accommodated. However, you're going to want water in the middle of the day. You're probably going to want a snack. Maybe the lunch that they give you is something that you're not a huge fan of. So having money for extra food, very wise. Plus, of course, you want to make sure you bring home some mementos and souvenirs to share with your friends and family who are unable to go.
Mr. Wood, the entry requirements there, that's the passport, is that what you mean by
That's correct. There is no visa that we have to apply to get for Panama and Costa Rica because of the agreement with the United States. Since you all have a valid passport, as long as you don't lose that document and you have it with you to produce whenever we need it to enter in the countries, and even getting to the hotel, sometimes they'll ask, just like when you go to a hotel and they ask your ID, you know what I'm talking about. Same thing, they may even ask for a copy of our passport. It is recommended you make 3 color copies of your passport main page with the picture and all of the critical data. So please make 3 color copies of your passport. 1 will stay home with your parents if your parents aren't going, so that in the event of an emergency, you can easily take a picture of it, send it over. It makes things easier with the embassy if a passport is lost. 1 will be with me, and 1 will be with the student. Most places are not going to accept that in lieu of a passport, but it makes things easier, and if they just need a copy, it just makes it more accessible. And like I said, if there was an emergency and a passport was lost, it makes the process to getting a new one a lot easier. Specifically color copy. Okay, we've talked about this. International flights recommend 3 hours. We do have a layover in Miami, but still 3 hours. Things happen. Better to be there early and wait a little extra time in the airport than to be sweating your head off trying to get there through traffic or whatever. So we want to make sure we're there on time. And like I said, we don't have to worry about the stress of getting to the airport. As long as we're here at the district on time, the bus will get us there safely to the airport and back. Now, if you're just really, really anxious to have your child when you come back, you want to arrange to get them from the airport directly, let's have that conversation. But I think it would be easiest if we just stick to that plan, all of us on the bus to there, all of us on the bus back here, and easy for you to pick up and drop off right here from the school district. We already talked about the local currency being the Balboa. It's a 1-to-1 exchange rate. The tour director and bus driver tips, for those of you who have completed your fundraising, that's been covered. I'm going to cash out the account, and then I'll make sure that those tips are paid daily. For anyone who hasn't done that, let's try to square that away before so we can take care of that. Or if that doesn't work, then you can take care of that, but it does need to be taken care of. It's not right to stiff the people whose jobs depend on these little tips for their livelihood. And for any local guide, if you want to, guide at a local indigenous village that we're visiting, or at the Sloth Reserve, does just a phenomenal job. You want to show a little extra gratitude, sure. Throw in a couple extra dollars or something and show that gratitude. That's certainly always welcome. We talked about spending money. The reason why I modified from 15 to 30 I thought would be about sufficient per day is because this is the generic, assuming you don't have lunch provided, and we do have lunch provided. It is important to note, you don't want to walk around with a lot of cash. So it is important to have something if you're able to. I know fanny packs aren't the most stylish thing. They're kind of coming back into being vogue or whatever. Do that. You can have, they sell these little things that are kind of like the straps. You put them in, it has a little thing for a couple of cards and some bills. Kind of keeps it out of view. You put your passport there, it's safe. There are a couple other types of little devices you can look up. You have time to do a little research. Order those things. You want a secure place. You don't want a wallet out of a pocket without a zipper that could fall out. Now you're without your passport. That's a problem. And you want to have a little bit of cash, but not a whole lot of cash on you, which means that if you don't already have your own debit card or credit card, you should talk to your parents about if there's one that they have that has no international fee that you could use and have access to. Make sure that the PIN number is 4 digits. Sometimes banks in the U.S. allow up to 6 digits. That's not going to be acceptable internationally. It has to be 4 digits, so you can change your PIN pretty easily. Your parent can do that if it's their card. And parents, talk to your kids about what kind of a reasonable limit and usage and all that kind of things for the credit card or debit card. We will have access to ATMs, and typically the exchange rate in an ATM is about as competitive as you're going to get anywhere else. Yes? We have to take, yes, each individual is responsible for their passport. I will keep a color copy of everyone's passport as I'm requiring, but you, each individual, or the parent wants to be responsible, has a passport. That way, if there were a terrible accident and I got targeted and I had everyone's passport, instead of everyone being up a creek without a paddle, just one person has to find their way to the embassy and get that solved. So it makes more sense to not have it all in one person's possession. Yes. And this is a great opportunity, like we talked about, to learn that independence piece, responsibility. This is a sensitive document that needs to be taken care of. Did you have something to talk about?
Well, I was going to say that usually we'll do a passport check. Like, before we leave the hotel, everybody check their passport. When we get to check, we'll do like multiple passport checks so that if something gets lost, we can narrow it down and then we'll know sooner rather than later. So just remember, just be used to having a passport check.
Yep. just like you would with your license, you're gonna have it anywhere you go, even if you're not driving your car, just to have an ID. Just to get used to, that's why I'm recommending having something that you can keep on your person that's secure, to have your passport with you at all times. Because some places that we're gonna go are gonna require it to get into the particular activity we're doing. Hotel check-in may require that we all produce our passports so we can verify our reservation. And yes, we'll be doing checks every evening and every morning when we're loading the bus. You don't get on the bus until you show me you have your passport. Nope, you may have it in your bag, but you need to pull it out and show it to me because it's a sensitive document that you have to have.
So I got you can get on Amazon, there's these little passport holders, they go underneath, and it's like, you wear it underneath your shirt, and you put your passport in there, and there's money or what have you, and then you'll have it underneath your shirt, so that way it's there around your neck, and protected, and you just have it on your person the whole time. The only thing is, I think we're gonna go, canoeing or one of those days.
The whitewater rafting.
Yeah, so we gotta probably figure something out for that, cause.
I'm gonna write that down.
Because, something that's waterproof, but that's the only thing I was thinking about. Yeah, it's like this, it's like a little.
That is a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to ask Explorica about, since we are doing so many water activities, are we able to leave sensitive documents like that on the bus securely, or should we all bring something waterproof to take with us? I would assume we're not going to take the passport in the ocean when we're when we're snorkeling and stuff like that. So that's a good question to ask to find a specific answer. Thank you for asking that. Okay, any other questions related to passports? Yes?
Is like pickpocketing problem?
Pickpocketing occurs in pretty much any country you go to, unfortunately.
Yes.
So you have to always be on the lookout. That's why I'm recommending, instead of having it in a pocket, easily accessible, especially without a zipper, having it on something that you can hang and put inside. It's a lot harder for someone to just get it without you noticing, without the group noticing, and strength in numbers. You're never going to be out on your own, always going to be with the group. So I would recommend getting one of those things. And if you really, really, really want to have it in a pocket, make sure you have pockets with zippers. That's just one little less thing, makes it harder for someone to try to pick it. I know in the US we can pretty much use any credit card we want, but from my own experience in Rome recently, not everywhere accepts American Express. Almost universally, Visa is going to be accepted. MasterCard in most places will also be accepted. So if you have that international card, you have to choose between American Express and Visa. I'm not getting sponsored by Visa, but Visa is probably the one to go with because almost anywhere you go, it's going to be accepted. Okay, packing. This is a huge issue. When I say huge, I don't mean like it's an issue, but it's a really important thing to get down. Personally, I can improve a lot in this area. So I'm not the best example of being a light packer. I think my wife's probably a better packer than I am. My understanding, we have not yet gotten the actual, they purchased the tickets. We'll get the e-tickets 20 days out. Once we get that e-ticket and we have that group number, we can call the airline and know what exactly our baggage allowance is. But Katie, our representative with Explorica, told me that normally, if it's a trip to Europe, it includes one checked bag and your carry-on. If it's a trip to Latin America or in the US, typically it only includes the carry-on. So you would probably have to pay an additional fee for checked baggage, and be very, very aware. We're going to multiple stops. It's not like you go to Cancun, you get out, you're at the same hotel for 7 days relaxing. We're gonna be going from one hotel to another hotel. You don't wanna drag a whole bunch of baggage with you everywhere we're going. You're responsible for your bags, so packing light is really important. If you can get it all in a carry-on, or max, I would say, one checked bag and one carry-on to really limit the possibility of losing luggage and just the hassle of having to go up and down stairs. Some international hotels, even if they're nice and will have nice accommodations, don't always have elevators. So imagine if we're on the 5th floor and you have a big old honker to carry up the stairs, it's gonna get annoying. Here are some recommendations, and if you look here at the little packet I gave you, which is the thing I could not leave in my car, I wanted to make sure you had it because it's got a lot of really good information, because I know it's a lot of information I'm throwing at you. There's a section on packing on the second page that gives some specifics, and it has a really cool website that is included. Type that in. It's called packpnt.com. And it's going to give you some very specific tips on what you should bring. Again, 20 days out, we'll get that e-ticket. I'll share that information with you so you can access and know exactly what the baggage allowance is, including weight, height, length, requirements for bags. Good also to have, in addition to that carry-on or a check bag, a backpack, something that you can take with you, to get out on the daily, right? Something that you can have light. Plus, it's really helpful. Worst case scenario, and those happen on occasion, right? Your checked baggage is lost, but you have a couple extra pairs of clothes in your backpack that you had with you on your person, and you had some, essential hygiene products and whatever. You save yourself the discomfort of not having anything to change into while the airline sorts out finding your bag. So that's just a good thing to do anyways when you're traveling. Any questions, generic questions or specific questions about packing? Okay, I've told you about the climate, hot, humid. There will be a little bit of a change in Costa Rica when we get up by the volcano. Arenal volcano, as you expect, has higher elevation. So we're talking, instead of 90s, maybe highs in the 70s or upper 60s. I don't know exactly the time of day we're going to be on the mountain, but possibly as cool as maybe the 50s. So a light jacket would be wise to have when we're in the interior area. Preferably something that's waterproof, or at least water resistant, because like I said, in tropical zones, and we're going to be visiting rainforests and things, they call them rainforests because they rain a lot, and that can happen any afternoon. So it'd be good to have that as a light jacket. Provides warmth and also water protection. First aid supplies, your specific medical needs. We've already stated in previous meetings that if you have prescriptions that you need to take while you're on the trip, you're responsible for bringing those. The easiest thing to do for customs is to actually bring the prescription, if you have a paper form from your doctor, and the medicine, so that if there's any question, what is this random bottle of medicine? This is this prescription, you can see that it matches, and there'll be no hassle with getting through customs. First aid supplies, little band-aids, alcohol wipes, things like that. Sunscreen is definitely a must. We're going to be on the water a lot. We're going to be outside most of the time. So having sunscreen if you're prone to burns is a very good idea. President Hinojosa, you might be able to answer this. I've heard different opinions about saving receipts. I know that sometimes when you're coming back to the U.S., they want more or less how much you spent, like how many value of things you're bringing. I think there might be a threshold. If it's under 500, they don't really care. Do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I think they have, let me look at my, they have the little re-entry form. See, the total value of goods including commercial merchandise, but, and then you just put in an amount, this thing, but they don't ever ask for the receipts. So, I mean, if you're worried about it, yeah, I guess keep them, but I didn't keep them, and they didn't ask.
Good,
You can
okay.
just fill it out.
And if you're making a lot of your purchases with your card, then you're going to have a tally, which is the case. But having a general idea about how much you spend is good, so you can put a number down on the paper, right? Okay. Insect repellent. These are areas where there are lots of mosquitoes, including mosquito-borne diseases. So protecting yourself from mosquitoes is important. Having insect repellent is important. What else?
I will say, like with the souvenirs and all that, I would just recommend that the kids just think about what you're buying, because it may be a cool thing that you come across, like one of the kids when we went saw this really cool rain stick, and they wanted to have it, and it was like pretty cool idea at the time. But then he was like, "Oh my gosh, how am I going to get it back to on the plane?" So think about whatever you get there, you're going to have to bring back. So you know, just be aware that you know.
And if you buy it on day one, you got to lug it around with you everywhere you go.
Yep.
It might be best to not do all of your souvenir shopping on day one. I know you're excited to spend that money without mom and dad looking over your shoulder.
I got a handbag. Just don't spend it at all.
That part.
Also, I guess for carry-ons, you don't gotta be aware of the sizes of your, insect repellents or lotion.
You do have to be aware of that.
Yeah, you gotta check those in, so you gotta have them back check in, be able to bring that.
That's a good point.
For 10 days. Yeah, mini size.
Don't they?
Honestly, personally, I don't think I can do it with just a carry-on. That's just me personally. So I'm
10
probably gonna have
days.
to cop up the $80 or whatever it costs and do a check bag. I
It's
don't want to
10
feel that check
days.
bag. What I want to do is put like maybe a backpack inside of there or something so that I can bring souvenirs home and have space for it. You got to think about that as well. If you're gonna bring home souvenirs, do you have the stuff to put it in, to pack it, and bring it back? So having an empty bag might not be a bad idea. And for those things that you can't get through check-in in the airport, like insect repellent, certain size of toothpaste, or whatever the liquids you might need, you kind of have to check that in. That's a great point. Thank you for making that. Good idea to bring snacks. Day one, travel days are also can often be a little bit stressful and challenging. We're gonna have a good attitude. We're gonna get there on time. But airports are notorious for delays, right? And then I wanted to show you the flight information. I'll show it to you in a second. But basically, we leave at like 5:30 in the morning on Friday. Okay. 3 hours before means we need to be there by 2:30. The Bush is about a 45-minute drive with no traffic from here, which means likely we're going to be meeting here around 1:30 a.m. on Friday morning, which may make going to sleep that night probably not a good idea.
I was deep here.
That was the
Okay.
Ah, slumber party.
I just drove this Friday to Bush. The flight was at 7, had to drop them off at 5. We left at 4:15, and on the way there, it was perfect because traffic,
Right.
it was 30 minutes.
Oh,
The way
nice.
back, it took us about 47.
Okay.
But around that time,
So in the middle of the night, at least we don't have to, hopefully, you never know, right? Have to deal with traffic going there.
it was
But we-
foggy though, so it would have
Right.
to be repaired. I'm prepared for that.
Yeah. But yeah, it's gonna be an early start. It's not ideal for eating because it's not that long a domestic flight. There's not gonna be any meal offered on the flight. We're gonna leave at 5:30. Most people aren't even hungry by the time we're gonna be on the plane and leaving. And then when we get to Miami, you might be hungry. Hopefully we can do it. We have about an hour and 50 minutes between arrival, if everything goes according to plan, in Miami and departure to Panama City. So hopefully, I'm hoping, knocking on wood, that I can grab some breakfast in the Miami airport. So make sure you have some cash right away or a card or whatever to get something to eat. But there's no problem with bringing whatever you like to eat, flying from here to Miami and eating that. So by all means, bring something to eat in case, for whatever reason, that layover gets truncated and we don't really have enough time to stop by whatever is for breakfast there. Because then, once we get on the plane to Panama City, because it's only about a 4-hour flight, we're probably not going to be served a meal either, and it's going to be 2 o'clock by the time we're leaving the airport in Panama City. That's a long time from meeting here at 1:30 in the morning and arriving in Panama City at 2 in the afternoon. So please, bring something to eat with you. Hopefully we'll get lucky and be able to eat in the Miami airport. I asked them, hey, is there any way we could stop by somewhere to eat on the way to hotel? Because that day we don't have anything planned in the evening. It's just meet the tour director, go to our hotel and check in, which is probably a blessing because hopefully we'll get some time to go to our hotel room and sleep, which is what I'm probably gonna wanna do, get some rest and eat. The hotel does have its own restaurant in it. It's a Holiday Inn. So it does have a full service restaurant there. I looked around on Google Maps. It's not like right next to like a shopping center, but maybe like a 10-minute Uber or 15-minute Uber drive from a mall, where we might, if we decide as a group that we want to go there and have different options for eating, that might be something we can do with some free time that first afternoon. Yes,
So by what time we're gonna get to Panama City, so?
around 2 p.m.
The reason I was asking is that I remember when we traveled to Nicaragua, we got there in the evening, but the tour director, when we got on the bus, they had already planned to have a meal for us. So I don't know if they're planning on having.
My understanding from Katie is they're planning on having dinner for us. So
That was it.
normally lunch is going to be 12 to 2, and unfortunately we're getting there right at the end of that. So I don't think they're going to have lunch for us. So that first day we're going to want to make sure we have lunch. Yes?
What's the time zone? What time zone are they in?
They're about the same as the Central or Eastern time zone. They don't do
Daylight savings?
daylight savings. I have it on my phone. I can tell you exactly.
Because it's stupid.
Panama is 8:14 right now.
Okay, so Eastern
Plus 1 hour.
plus 1 hour. Thank you.
Yeah, so the same as the East Coast. So once we get to Miami, that'll be the same time zone we're in. And Costa Rica is the same as Panama. Clothing, comfortable shoes are of utmost importance. We're going to be doing lots of walking tours, going here, going there, historical places, indigenous village, volcano hiking. Having comfortable shoes is going to make your trip much more enjoyable. Now's not the time to show off your high heels, ladies, or whatever. There is a night we're going to do dancing, so I'm not saying it's not okay to bring that if it's what you want to do, but don't be wearing that daily. Electricity. Good news is Panama and Costa Rica use same outlet that we do, except not always is there the third larger prong in the middle. So if you like the standard iPhone charger is just a 2-prong, right? If you have one like for a laptop that's 3-prong, you might want to get a little adapter in case the hotel we're staying at doesn't have the 3-prong, so you can get into there. But at least you don't have to worry about the very different ones that are around the world. Like in Europe, they have very different plugs. Be prepared to get out of your comfort zone, enjoy yourself, enjoy being in an unfamiliar environment, and embrace the exciting experience of being in a new place, hearing a different language other than English being spoken constantly. Immerse yourself in the culture, you're going to have a better experience that way. It all starts up here. What is your attitude about it? Cell phone use, check with your carrier to see if either they have a plan that will allow you access to Wi-Fi or data and also phone and texting in Panama and Costa Rica. Most cell services will have at least an add-on you can do that. Some of them will already give you access maybe on a limited basis with very little data. You might consider paying for the data just in case. One really good way to communicate with family and friends is WhatsApp. If you happen to be familiar with WhatsApp, it's encrypted. If you have, whatever hotel we're staying at, it's going to have Wi-Fi pretty much. So parents, if you want to have that constant communication, I can't guarantee it when we're out in the wilderness, but at least in the evenings, if you want your child to check in, that might be a good way to be able to do it.
Mr. Wood, are we gonna do a Instagram page for the trip or something like that? When we went before, we had so that way, when we had opportunity to post pictures, parents can see what was going on. Usually you or whoever would run that, and certain people can upload certain things.
Yes.
That was a way to kind of stay in touch or something like that.
Absolutely. So this company has what's called a digital diary, and it allows us, and we're going to make it a requirement for everyone to share at least one picture. They don't have to be in the picture if they don't want to be in the picture, not gonna, whatever. But upload a picture and an entry, and President Costa has actually brought his personal diary that he brought. I thought it's really cool. He's got like the little flight insert thing with the ticket, the little entrance tickets to the different locations. He's got all kinds of stuff. So pictures, postcards, having something like that, it's really priceless. You know, it's a lot of things you're experiencing at once. Taking a moment in the evenings or when you have a free moment just to write down makes those memories much more accessible. You may forget about specific details if you don't write them down. So writing that down means you can relive this, share it with other people. You have those fun anecdotes that who knows you may draw upon when you're writing an essay in college or whatever else. Or just talking to your family about fun times you had when you were in high school. If you want to relive a trip, you could actually see the places you went and the things that happened. Okay, questions up to this point? All right, so we're going to do a little background information in Costa Rica, then I'm going to share with you what I have with the flight specifics. A lot of this information is redundant, just the Costa Rica specific part is different.
Will you share the PowerPoint slides? Or is everything on that in here?
No, not everything in the, well, most of it is on here in regards to the actual words and stuff. I don't know if I could share it in GroupMe. I'm thinking it might be wise for us to create a WhatsApp group for this group because I don't know about y'all, but GroupMe can be a little sometimes not as reliable. For example, the school Wi-Fi blocks it. Like if you send a message during the day and I'm connected to the school Wi-Fi, I don't see it until I get home. So I'm not ignoring you. Sometimes I actually don't get the messages until later. And so WhatsApp might be a good way for us to be able to do that. We can share things. It's a good way if let's say President Hinojosa goes off with a group of 5 and I'm with a group of 6 or something like that and we separate, good way to phone, you can drop your location, you know, so it's a good app to have. Anyone not have WhatsApp?
Actually, and it's better if you have an Android and she has an iPhone, the quality of the picture is so much better.
On WhatsApp?
Yeah, so usually when I send an Android, it's kind of fussy and it's
Oh, it's
not,
Android
or
and
a
iPhone.
video,
Right.
it's not clear. If you send it through WhatsApp and if we're gonna share pictures like you guys want to
Yes.
do, then probably WhatsApp is going to be the best bet because the quality of the picture comes the same from an Android or from a.
So I will commit for our final meeting we have, the week of departure. I'm thinking on Monday if that works for people. So that Monday, I think it would be March the 4th or the 5th? March 4th, having that WhatsApp created so everyone can just join the WhatsApp group and we'll have that already.
Mr. Wood,
Yes?
students will be missing school Friday and Monday. Are they gonna be excused? Are they gonna be excused absences from school?
I will send an email like I've done when I've been a UIL coach or when I'm as a tennis coach to the attendance clerk of both schools saying these people are on this trip. This is a school board sponsored trip. You know, this should be a school approved excused absence. But as I would always tell my tennis players or anyone else, students need to communicate with their teachers ahead of time, not last minute ideally, and tell them, hey, I'm gonna be gone this day and this day. Is there anything I need to do? If you were planning a test on that last day before spring break, can I take it the day before? That way you can avoid. The good news is it's only 2 days, so it's not like we're gonna be missing a whole 10 days of school. It shouldn't be too big of a thing to overcome for students, but please communicate with parents, and I'll be sure to send that email out to the registrars of each campus.